Hello and welcome to the Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 58, Silencing the Shitty Committee, Gaining Control Over Your Emotions. So we're going to talk all about today that voice that's in your head. What is that voice inside of your head? It could be your mother, it could be an old school friend, it could be a teacher, it could be a myriad of things that have happened over the course of your life that have set up this little committee that tells you why you can't do things and tells you why you shouldn't do things and tells you that you're not good enough to do things. So we want to tune out this voice. I have done a really good job of this. I do not really struggle with it at all anymore. Every once in a while, I'll connect with those thought frequencies, those thought forms, and I have the tools. I'm going to give you the tools and the tips on how to interrupt those things so they do not become your life story, or they don't become something that keeps you from really living the life that you want to live, living that identity of who you really want to be. So your beliefs are what create. So if you have a bunch of funky belief systems inside of you about yourself, they are tuned into from that shitty committee. So they are actually part of that committee's job to keep you safe and the same, to keep you from really getting out of your comfort zone, to keep you from really thriving in life, to keep you small. That's what they're there for. So when we look at our belief systems and we actually break down, what do I really believe about myself? And do any of the beliefs that I have about myself actually come from me? Are they my truth? And this is why I preach meditation all day, every day, because what meditation does is it helps you to break away from that committee and no longer identify with the belief systems that you may have picked up on growing up. So you have to create the space. That's the very first thing. Because if you don't create the space, then the shitty committee is you, and you can't really, there's no space between you and it. You're just constantly at the, conduction of thoughts that you don't necessarily want to keep having. So this is why you may feel like your emotional field has control over you, that you often get triggered, that you often have emotions that you don't want to have, that you often feel terrible, that you often feel miserable, that you're often thinking thoughts that are bringing things that you do not want to create. So, this is where worry comes from. This is where anxiety comes from. This is where depression comes from. It all comes from the foundations of your belief systems and the energies that you tune into, the thoughts and the energies that you tune into. So the idea of the shitty committee, those voices inside of your head, this is how you know if those voices are connected to this committee. This is how you know if the voices are connected to something that is not of you, which basically means not of you, means it's not connected to that infinite intelligence that you are an expression of. It's not connected to how God or source feels about you, or what your natural state of well-being is, which is joy, unconditional love, thriving, passion, excitement, truth. That is the truth. So when you're standing in the truth, when you're feeling brilliant, when you're feeling confident, when you're feeling powerful, you are not listening to that committee. You have completely tuned it out, and you're actually in that stream of well-being. You're allowing that frequency to be your set point. So that's going to be the intention today, is how do I set my frequency at that set point? And then when there are things that happen in life, or when I do wake up, on the wrong side of the bed, how do I get the steering wheel back? How do I keep my emotions from being the driver of the car? So I got some really good stuff for you about that. So this is how you know if this is the committee. Doubting. When you're doubting yourself, when you're getting energies of doubt, when you're getting thought forms about doubt, when you're feeling doubtful about yourself and your abilities to carry out what you're looking to create. And this is why your doubts about yourself and your feelings like you can't accomplish things actually blocks the flow of infinite intelligence and infinite wisdom and all the information and people counterparts that could co-create with you and help you actually accomplish something that you really want to accomplish. Anything self-deprecating. So that's when you put yourself down. That's when you hate yourself in the mirror. That's when you feel disgusting. That's when you do things that go against who you say you want to be. So that's, skipping your workouts. That's eating crappy food. It's watching crappy TV. It's doing all of those things and allowing yourself to be in a self-deprecating thought form, which tunes you into that self-deprecating station. Blame, when you're blaming others, when you're in victimhood mentality and you're blaming everybody else, that's the committee. It's either going to blame you or it's going to blame somebody else, because this is the thing about blaming somebody else. When you're blaming somebody else, my daughter actually said this to me, my 18-year-old. She said, when you're blaming somebody else, you're not taking responsibility for it, and therefore you cannot learn from it. Yeah, really good stuff. So you don't want to be blaming other people. Whenever you're blaming other people, you're in victimhood, you're in powerlessness. If it's blaming yourself, if you're in that self-deprecating, it's all my fault, right? It's all my fault. It's all my fault. That is also the committee. The committee will also give you reasons why you cannot do things. It will tell you all day long why you cannot do things. It is the energies that cause you to make excuses, why you're not going to do today what you said you were going to do today, and it will create a feeling of being unmotivated and uninspired and not being impeccable with your word and having integrity to yourself when you made a promise to do something that connects with the identity of who you want to be. So, making excuses, giving you reasons why not. Tells you you're stuck. A lot of people, that's one of probably the biggest pain points that I get from people is, I'm stuck. Can you help unstick me? I get that a lot. And the truth is, you are never stuck. We are always progressing. We are on this journey of expansion and growth. There are times when we are in a lower field of production. There's no doubt about it. That's the ebb and flow of life. Sometimes we're running really hard and we're super busy, and other times it's time to self-care. It's time to pull back. It's time to go within. So I believe that's the ebb and flow of life, and I absolutely see it in my life. Sometimes I'm like kicked up and in gear and creating, which has been the last year of my life. And then other times it's like, ooh, I got to pull back. I got to balance this situation out, and I got to take care of myself. So you're never stuck. So don't believe the committee about being stuck. And if you feel stuck, ask yourself a few questions. One is, what am I doing to stay stuck? Where does this belief come from? And what can I do today to make myself feel a little bit unstuck? Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe it's 5 minutes working on a website. Maybe it's 5 minutes visualizing my life. Maybe it's 5 minutes of self-care. Maybe, it's just something that contributes to a feeling of production. I did something for me today. I did something for someone else today. I did something for my dream today. It could literally be like looking on Pinterest for stuff to decorate your house with. I don't know, whatever's calling to you. It could be looking at other things online that have to do with a business you want to create or something you want to do, a passion that you feel passionate about. Could be researching your passion, could be listening to a YouTube. There's so many things you can do to just feel a little bit better. And when you feel a little bit better, it'll start to unstick you. But you're never stuck. Anything of unworthiness. So anything that comes to you that says, I am not good enough, I can't accomplish that, I don't have the right tools, I don't have the right smarts. We all have access to infinite intelligence, to infinite wisdom. And as we put our feet forward, as we start moving towards something, those things are going to be unveiled. We also, once we get out of our comfort zone and do the things that feel a little bit scary, we're going to show ourselves how incredibly worthy we are. And we're going to build that confidence. Confidence does not come from sitting and thinking about things. Confidence comes from actually taking the risk, taking the chance, and actually doing something. And once you start doing something, then you start to see where your expansion is, where your growth is. And that's a really important part of this journey. When you start comparing yourself to others, I feel like that's probably an epidemic right now with social media. It's so easy for us to compare ourselves to others. My daughter put up a post that totally made me cry the other day about the holidays. And I have made a really solid decision around holidays, and I've had to. And it's come on the heels of a lot of misery. So we moved 6 years ago across the country from Connecticut to California, and all of our kids have not always been with us. Like we can't line it up sometimes. Like flights are really expensive, and it's just can be very challenging. So we've had to kind of lose the expectation of holidays. And our holidays used to be, I mean, we have 4 children. They used to be very busy, very exciting. We used to go to church. We used to have family over. We had, 30 to 40 people at every holiday. Lots of cousins, lots of fun, lots of just, engagement with people that we loved. And so we've had to pull away from that expectation. And now there's nothing that I hold around the holidays that it has to be a certain way. Sometimes it's just my husband and my 2 little ones. It's fine. Sometimes it's my husband, my 2 little ones, and my second daughter, and not her daughter, not my granddaughter. So on those times we go hiking, we go to the beach, we do adult things because we don't have a little one with us. So we've really taken a stand against misery during the holidays. But my daughter had put up about how it's really hard looking, and she's in Connecticut, so it's challenging because we were all together. Our sweet cousin Aiden is now here in California, so he was with us. We've got the boyfriends and we've got the girls, so we have a cute little sweet little community of we just created some fun. And so she was feeling the loss of that for sure. And she put up how, looking at other people's social medias on days like the holidays makes it really tough. And again, these are facades sometimes, smiling faces, everybody looks happy. And if you talk to people, family obligations are not always what they're cracked up to be. And quite frankly, I'm somewhat free of the family obligation thing, which feels better to me. So maybe that's part of my accepting joy during the holidays. But when I first got here, it was rough. We had some rough holidays, really rough, where I was completely miserable, super sad. I remember one 4th of July, my oldest daughter wasn't here. And I think it was when she first moved back to Connecticut, because she used to live here, and I was just miserable the whole time. Yeah, it was really hard to find any joy. And my daughter was here with her granddaughter and her girlfriend with her son. So we had little ones here, and it was a lot. And over time, I've just started making decisions around my well-being, decisions around not creating a lot of misery for other people, because when we have these expectations and they don't go down the way we want them to, that creates a lot of misery. Expectations around traditions, around food, around all of that stuff has shifted for us. In fact, we had my third daughter volunteered to make dinner, which was super cool. So mom's letting go. I don't need control. I did make a little salmon dish, and I did make some cupcakes. But she made shrimp tacos with butternut squash and pineapple. Oh, they were amazing. And like, if that isn't a California Easter, I don't know what is. So it was great. And we had a little Easter egg hunt in the backyard with our granddaughter, and everybody got baskets. And their baskets are not so much candy anymore. They're more like decorating stuff for their rooms. And I have a lot of fun with that. I get cute little baskets. And so that's changed. And some of my kids are not ready to let go of that yet, so we're still in it. So you don't have to create a bunch of misery or anxiety or depression around these social programming holidays where we are told, this is Easter or this is Christmas and it should be filled with a bunch of people, you can create it as something special for yourself. And I know I've done other shows on that, and it's important to realize that you are the one who is creating your misery if that's what's happening. So make decisions around that stuff and get ahead of it and decide, you know what, this is going to be great. And it was. We had a really nice time. We had a fire, we had chocolate covered strawberries, and the day was extremely satisfying. So get out of the shitty committee. So here we go. Um, Oftentimes, this committee comes from someone else that formed a wound that has turned into a frequency that you can often tune into. So, we've got all these neural pathways, right? And we've got all these thought forms, and many of our thought forms are habitual. Right? A lot of our neural pathways are habitual. They're really easy for us to go into. They're habits of thought, they're habits of energy. So, like, your emotions download chemicals and hormones, and they're habits of energy that we get addicted to. So, the foundations of these energies is anxiety, depression, moodiness, dissatisfaction, drives complaining. So, if you're complaining a lot, victimhood, powerlessness, and judgment. I've got some fun stuff to share on judgment. All of those foundations are founded in that committee. In that committee that drives a frequency that brings you down and basically keeps you safe and the same. So it's easy for you to tune into it because then you don't have to actually do anything else. Yes, I'm drinking coffee. Good Lord. It's been one of those days I got no time for a nap today. Okay. So the shitty committee and fear of judgment. So the fear of judgment comes from directly from this committee and directly from past things that have happened to you where people have judged you in the past, where you have judged people, and where you judge yourself. So this comes from your tendency to judge others, and then it creates a fear in you that others are judging you. So you think about what your parents said about that, or what your teacher said about that, or what your peers said when you did that. I had a couple of examples that have come up recently. Like, if you really start to think back and you think about memories of when you were younger and like when you started to dim your light. We just did this in one of my coaching groups. When you started to dim your light, and it's like, oh man, when I was in 5th grade, I tried out for this play and people laughed at me, right? Like, the music director had me audition in the gym. It was either in the gym or the auditorium. That's where the stage was. So I think it was the auditorium. And there were other people there. It was like after school and there was a bunch of other people there. So I felt completely judged, totally self-conscious, and I blew the audition. In 7th grade, I didn't make the cheerleading team. I know. And again, I was auditioning in front of a bunch of people and I couldn't even do a cartwheel because I was feeling so self-conscious. So there are those moments in our life when we think about it. Went outside the box and I wore high heel sneakers in 7th grade. And man, oh my goodness, I think I had to call my mom and tell her to bring me another pair of shoes because people were making fun of me for these crazy shoes. They were kind of crazy. Like, when I think about it now, I'm like, what was I doing wearing those? So when we get evidence that stepping outside of the box and being different caused people to judge us, we start to put ourselves in a place where we're safe and the same. I had this conversation with my daughter recently about getting dressed for things. I was getting dressed for like a little networking event that I was going to. And I started to kind of go back into my old like business wear. Like, I don't really have any business wear left in California, but I started to go back and wanting to look businessy. And like, that's not who I am. That is absolutely not who I am anymore. So she helped me kind of come up with something that was, classy, but also slightly bohemian, because that's who I am. So it's interesting to think, okay, don't dress for the occasion, dress for what you want to wear, dress for what makes you feel beautiful, dress for what makes you feel like you, not like an event, not like an event calls to you, right? Um, So that fear of judgment, you've got to start looking at the harsh judgments that you make about yourself. So this is any time that you're hearing and judging yourself for things and telling yourself you're not good enough. That is the shitty committee. That's absolutely the committee that needs to be silenced. So this is how we silence the committee. First of all, think about those things. Think about the ways in which you've dimmed your light. Think about the ways that you have walked through certain traumas in your life that have created wounds that have tuned you into this frequency that have caused you to feel less than. If you would like to silence the committee, number one is meditation. That's what's going to create enough space in order for you to stop the momentum. We first have to stop the momentum because there is a momentum, especially if you are experiencing a lot of anxiety or a lot of depression or a lot of self-deprecating thoughts. If you're in that, if you've been in it for a long time, probably most of your life, you have dealt with this. It's going to take a little time to break from that momentum and to break from that identity. Because when you believe something over and over and over again about yourself, remember this: a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. So as you believe, you identify, and that identification becomes who you are. And then you see physical evidence of it. We can become anything we decide we want to become, but we have to break from those habits of thought and those habits of belief. And we've got to start questioning this stuff, you guys. Like, we've got to start like going, where the hell does this come from? And why do I want to believe this about myself? If this belief is not driving my passion, if this belief is not driving me to what I want to create, then why do I need to keep believing it? Why do I need to keep tuning into it? You don't. You don't. And it's time to stop. All right. So meditation is number one. No longer identifying with it and recognizing through awareness and interrupting it before it gains momentum. So awareness does nothing. Awareness can be actually very frustrating if you have an awareness and you don't know how to change it. I remember a long, long time ago when I used to scream at my kids. And when I started meditating, I started getting this space where I would be above the screaming. Like, I would see myself yelling and going, God, I sound like my mom and I don't want to sound like that. And I don't know how to stop it. And it was so frustrating. It wasn't until I learned mind training in universal law that I realized it was a station that I was tuning into that came from not that moment of yelling at them. It came from the last 30 things I was thinking about that I tuned into that actually pissed me off about them. So it all begins, it all starts somewhere where a momentum starts. Whenever you have like a really strong emotional, trigger and you flip out or you have some sort of rage, there was momentum involved. You didn't go from like happy and grateful to angry. There was underlying foundations of anger and frustration that contributed to that trigger. And that's why I will preach all day long as well about that healing space underneath, where we have to go underneath, where we have to go within to actually heal from these wounds and triggers and traumas that have caused us to be controlled by our emotional field. All right, so journaling. Journaling is a super important part of learning more about yourself, releasing this stuff, getting it out of your body. So as you journal it, it's like things will come to you. Journaling is also, they've called it, it's been called automatic writing before. It's actually a level of channeling, which is like where infinite wisdom can come through you and you can connect with things that are underneath where you may have not had realization of it before. So journaling is super important. And that's just asking yourself questions. What am I feeling? What is the foundation of these feelings? Where do these beliefs come from? Do I want to believe these? What do I want to believe? Those are your questions. It's pretty simple and it opens up a whole avenue of information that's going to help you moving forward to become someone who is not run on this automatic thinking, these automatic behaviors, social programmings. All of our beliefs come from way back, right? And a lot of these voices come from way back. 3, 4, 5 years old. That's when our belief systems are created by the age of 7. Isn't that crazy? So a lot of us are running around with these 5-year-old belief systems about ourselves. And if you weren't a confident, person at age 5, which I don't know if you were. My granddaughter certainly is. There's no doubt about it. But if you weren't super confident and you didn't really believe in yourself, and over time you had traumas that created more of that feeling, you would get more and more evidence of that in your life. And then it's who you become. That's how you connect with identities. That's how you connect with low self esteem and low self confidence. It's from having time and time again shown yourself that you're not living in your power, that you're living from a place that's less than. So go way back, go way back. Just get into this, get into the energy of what is the foundation. The foundation is the important part of recognizing who you are and what no longer fits in the life story you want to tell. Listen, if you've got a call to your heart, if you have a desire of your heart, and you look at that desire and you say, I have no business creating that. I have no knowledge. I have no smarts. I have no capabilities. I have no gifts. I have no talents around that. That would make no freaking sense. Why would you have a desire in your heart that you didn't have the abilities to create? It's not possible. I'm going to tell you right now, universal law just poo-poos that. There's just no way. You have the ability to create what your desire is calling you to. It's just shedding all of these skins that other people have put on you and all of these skins that you have put on yourself to keep yourself safe and the same. Okay, so this is all about making a firm decision. So I love decisions. I love making strong decisions and not going back on my decision. That is being impeccable with your word. That's one of the 4 agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz. Being impeccable with your word means you are impeccable with your word to yourself. So I'm impeccable. I don't decide things that I'm not going to go through with, because if I make a promise to myself and I break that promise to myself, what good are my promises? If I don't keep them to myself, who would I possibly keep them to? And if I'm keeping promises to other people and not to myself, what does that say about my own worthiness and my own ability to love myself? Good question. So make a firm decision to no longer feel these things. Once you start to do that, you have to do the journaling. First, you have to do the meditation. First, you have to work on these lower frequencies to get them out of your body, to focus and breathe and get them out. Then it's a game. It's a freaking game of deciding which thoughts you're going to tune into. And as you tune into thoughts, they evoke emotion, right? So the more thoughts you have, the more emotions are evoked. As emotions are evoked, physical evidence stuff starts to break down into matter, because emotions are energy in motion. So they start the trail to physical matter, physical evidence. So your emotions are really the thing that drive the energy. Your thoughts just drive the emotions. So if you can get a handle on that thought field and you can get ahead of the emotions and you can redirect before a bunch of emotions get evoked, you're 97% going to win, because you're ahead of it and you haven't allowed yourself to go there. Now, if you've had something trigger, oftentimes triggers feel like there was no thought involved. You just went from 0 to 60. Oftentimes that's how a trigger works. You didn't really get a chance. But the truth is, if you look back, there was a whole bunch of thoughts, or there was an underlying vibration that needs to be healed. Listen, triggers are your favor. They're a favor to let you know what's really going on within and to be able to work on it and heal and let it come up. Okay, so once you have a thought and you stay on track with that thought in the same frequency, other thoughts will join it, and then emotion is evoked. Once the emotion is evoked, we've got energy in motion that's bringing you physical evidence. That's quantum physics. That's how it works. Okay, so awareness is key, like I said, but it does nothing. Interruption is even more important. So here's a little analogy. I like this. I came up with this and I like it. Awareness is like putting your key in the ignition. Okay. Car is not going to do much when you got the key in the ignition. The, okay, let me see. Cause this is a new thing. Interruption is starting the car. So once you realize you've got the awareness, once you realize it, you start to interrupt it. That's when you start the car. Okay? So the car is started. We're still not going anywhere. We've just interrupted the thought pattern. The thing that puts your foot on the gas is reaching higher for gratitude and satisfaction because it's a full redirect. This is not about pushing down your emotions. This is not about that. This is when you don't have time to go within and journal and really map this stuff out. This is about frequency and the radio stations that you're allowing yourself to tune into that dictates your day, what comes to you next, that conduction of energy, and what you allow your foundations to be. The work, the journaling, that's important and it needs to happen, but we can't be doing that stuff all day. We can't be, in traffic and journaling. Like we can't be doing that. So throughout the day, your journaling time, your meditation time is in the morning, but throughout the day, you've got a moment to moment choice going on. Am I going to tune into that? Am I going to tune into that? Am I going to get mad about that? Am I going to get mad about that? Do I have time to be in misery right now? Is it worth it? Is it a waste? Is it a waste for me to get sad about the holidays? Or can I just be really grateful for what's in front of me? The fact that I get to take a nap, the fact that I get to just do whatever I want, the fact that I don't have obligations or a million dishes to do. Another tradition that we kind of threw out the window was we ate on paper plates. That was very freeing. That was my daughter's idea. And I was like, okay, never thought of that one. I mean, when we had big family holidays, of course, we used paper plates, but as a family, we usually just, it didn't really matter and it caused a lot less work at the end of the day. So there you go. So that's the thing. Do you want to tune into this station or do you have enough awareness to put the key in the ignition? Do you have enough drive to interrupt, to start the car? Do you have enough capabilities, enough control to say, I'm going to think about this? I do that very often. Like something got me yesterday. Oh, I went to Target yesterday. Okay. And my daughter had bought all these towels from Target. My girls wanted new towels. They said all of our towels were really old. So they said, we're going to buy all new towels. So I'm like, all right, we'll get them and just get a bunch of them and whatever. Well, we washed them and they got super linty, like so bad. And then I washed them again and they were super linty, so bad. So I'm like, all right, these need to go back. So yesterday I'm with my granddaughter. We're going to Target to get her some high heels because, we were doing a makeover and she needed some high heels like right away, like stat. So, and I'm her grandmother, so I can do that and I can spoil her and it's fine. And I'm not spoiling her. I'm just enjoying the heck out of her. And it's so good. It's so clean. So we go to Target. I don't have the receipt and I only have my wallet on my phone. I don't have the actual card because my child had it. So the lady looks it up and she goes, can't find it. I'm like, what do you mean you can't find it? We bought these here. And she's like, can't find it. And if I can't find it, I can't return it. So I'm like, okay, I have a choice. I can get annoyed with this woman because I felt like she was lying. I didn't feel like she was lying. I just felt like there was an issue. Like there was an issue because I paid for these and I've used my wallet before on other purchases. So to return. So I just looked at her and I was like, she goes, oh, I'm really sorry. And I go, oh, it's okay. It's not your fault. Whatever. I'll find the receipt. No big deal. So I walk away and we're going to look for these high heel shoes. Now I'm in a moment with my granddaughter, enjoying. And I feel this like salty feeling. Like I feel this like yuckiness, like, oh, they wouldn't let me return that. And like, right. So I've got the awareness. It starts to come. The thoughts start to come. And I'm like, it's all going to work out. I'm going to return them. Like, obviously, I'm going to return them. They stink. Like, I don't want these and I'm not paying for them. So, obviously, I'm going to return them. So, I just totally let it go. And we ended up finding her 2 pairs of heels and a pair of Crocs and a cush ball that she just had to have. It was fun. We had a great time. But if I had let that experience with that woman set me off into it's not fair and I feel powerless, like if I had that going on underneath, that whole experience would have been a lot different. I would have tuned into a low frequency, which if you're around children and you're tuning into a low frequency, hello, they will reflect that to you. So I don't want to do that when I'm with my grandbaby. And it was like the last couple of hours that I had with her. So I was really working on enjoying it and having fun and celebrating together. So good for me, right? Good for me. Got this figured out. But I love stuff like that because it gives me an opportunity to map this stuff and then share it with you guys, because there's no reason like to get upset about little things like that. But we do. We do. Can't return something that I bought with my money. And like, what do you mean you can't find it? Like, that's ridiculous, right? So funny, I let it go and my daughter was like, well, just, she bought them. So she was like, just give them to me. I'll bring them back. Don't even worry about it. It's not even your problem. And I'm like, not my problem. And it's not my problem. So I'm not going to feel anything about it. Pretty cool. Okay, so think about that awareness as the putting the key in the ignition. And then, you've got to have enough space between your awareness and your next thought to actually interrupt and create something different. If you're all like this, if those monkeys in your mind have a lot of power over you because you haven't spent time meditating, because you haven't allowed yourself to quiet the mind, you haven't put yourself in that place of power and control, then it's going to be a lot more difficult because you're like this with your mind. You're believing everything your mind says. You're letting your mind be in control. You're letting your emotions run the show. Your emotions are in the driver's seat. So you've got to back up a little bit, have the awareness and then the interruption, and then go, all right, what do I want to think about? And honestly, they didn't have the shoes at Target. So I said, what do I want to think about? I got one more shoe store to go to. And this is what I did. We're driving there. It takes 3 minutes to get there. And on the way there, I'm like, okay, angels, let's find the best shoes possible. Let's find everything that she wants here and leave happy. And that's exactly what happened. So I got ahead of it. I set an intention. I decided that this next store, because Target, I called it after we left because their shoe department was a disaster. I said, well, that was not successful and this is going to be. So I set an intention and I set the energy field up for that. And I couldn't have done that if I was annoyed about Target. I couldn't have. I had to leave that go. I had to let it go and move into a new energy field. And you have the power to do that. I want you to know this. You have the power to do exactly what I'm doing. And all you need are the tips and the tools and enough space, enough awareness in your life story to begin to decide and choose. That's it. A little bit of belief in yourself, a little bit of belief in universal law, a little bit goes a long way. Trust me. All right. So watch your thoughts for things first thing in the morning. Watch how you're getting out of bed. Watch exactly what's happening the second you open your eyes. I've shared before, like the second I open my eyes, I'm grateful for my husband. Like that's just it. I just lay in bed and I think about how grateful I am for him, for my warm bed, for my family, for my gym. I got to be grateful for the gym. I've learned this over working with some clients that were not getting the benefit of a workout that I get. So they were like leaving the gym. They didn't have like an endorphin rush. They were just, and we realized that they were tuning into the frequency before the workout that this is going to suck and I'm going to hate it. And when you do that, you actually turn off your receptors of good, of gratitude, of satisfaction, of the endorphins that actually can come from a really good workout session. So I'm very careful about how I think about my workouts and the energy I conduct before I get there. So if I'm walking in and I'm dragging and I'm telling myself a story, this happens sometimes. I'm tired. I'm getting up at 4:20, 4:17. Good Lord. I'm getting up at 4:17. I'm going to the gym. It's like, oh, did I sleep good last night? Don't ask yourself that. And don't tell people that you didn't sleep good last night. that's just going to conduct all day long. I'm tired. I'm tired. When you say you're tired, your entire cellular structure goes, we're tired. And your body slows down and your body feels tired. And then you vibrate with tired. And then more things like that make you tired. So be careful what you're saying to yourself. Be careful what you're saying to your body. And it starts very first thing in the morning is where you set that foundation. And that's why I promote meditation in the morning. I get up, I do my posts on Facebook, I go to the gym, I come home, I meditate. That's pretty much my ritual. And I feel like a ritual is important, non-negotiable ritual that I don't ask if I should or shouldn't because your mind's going to tell you not to do it. I don't ask myself if I'm too tired because I know if I just go and do it, I'm going to feel great. And I know that 5, 10, 15 minutes into my workout, that energy field is going to take over. Those endorphins are going to take over and I'm going to have a good workout. It pretty much happens like 94% of the time, 95, maybe 96. Yeah. All right. So every conduction comes from your emotional response. This is probably one of my favorite things to teach. It's probably one of my favorite things to know. It's probably one of my favorite things to share with people. Honestly, your response to everything is what conducts the next minute. So as you respond, you create. It's not even necessarily your initial thoughts, although your initial thoughts are what sets up the field. So your initial thoughts are what sets up the creation, but your response is what keeps the energy going. Your emotions, remember, the energy and motion is what keeps it going. So as you have different responses, as you let things go, as you drop misery, as you create something different, as you decide differently, your energy is going to create something different. So if you're having an issue with someone, if you're having, maybe you've had a relationship that's been supercharged and you don't feel great about somebody, if you just I actually had this happen with a client yesterday. I got to share this. So it was about her brother-in-law, and she never really cared for him. And he told them to take a particular airline, and she did it. She listened to him, and he ended up being right. So what that did was it shifted her energy about how she was feeling about him before she saw him. So she had some gratitude for him. She was tuned into gratitude. Her whole vacation with him was so different than anything she's ever experienced before. And throughout the vacation, she saw him differently because she tuned into a different frequency with him. It's like magic, you guys. So as you change your response to people, they will tune into a different frequency with you. Try it. It works. Do a positive aspect sheet on people. Write down what you love about someone and watch. Watch as they show you something different based on what you are tuned into. Now you have momentum with people. So it may take a little time for that to shift, but you'll see evidence of it pretty quickly. So as you start loving on them more, as you start feeling gratitude for them more, they will just give you more reasons to feel like that because you are tuned into that radio station with them. It is magical. If you feel triggered by something, go within and find out why, because your triggers are a window into your healing, and it's about clearing those triggers so that you're not vibrationally, energetically vibrating with them. When we were going through all of our financial stuff, so often I wouldn't have enough money in my bank account and I would get to a register and it wouldn't go through, or I would try to pay at a restaurant and it wouldn't go through. I remember the first time we came to California, we were in this super ritzy restaurant in Santa Monica, feeling ourselves like here we are, like fish out of water. We're in California. We want to move here. We have no idea if we even belong here. And honestly, Santa Monica, I don't think we felt like we belonged there. We just we didn't connect, and it was beautiful and awesome. And the dinner was amazing. And then we go to pay and our credit card gets denied. This was a momentum that we had created, and we were doing fine at that point. Like financially, we were doing fine. There was tons of money on that credit card. So, We both responded, not ashamed like normal, not like, oh my God, we don't have any money. We both felt a little bit triggered. We both released it. We had a different response. We ended up taking all the cash we had and paying with that, and we couldn't leave a tip. Oh my goodness. And then we called the credit card company, and it was because we were in California that they denied the claim. So silly. Like now I think they send text messages, just so silly. So if we had responded in that shame, if we had been mortified, if we had been, just feeling awful about ourselves, that would have ended up a lot differently. But we had exactly the amount of cash that we needed. We cleared up the credit card situation right after we left the restaurant, and it did not become a big conduction. I would so often do this with my bank account that for a while after we had money, this would happen to me. And it was just like a fluke, like there was something wrong with my card or there was something wrong with their register. So now if that ever happens to me, I feel nothing. I'm like, well, there's no possible way. I got lots of money in there. So I love that I've cleaned that up, but it took some work, right? It took looking at that trigger. It took believing in my abundance. It took believing in my worthiness to really clean up that story so it didn't happen anymore. So become a decider. Number one, become a decider. Decide that what you want to feel. Decide what you want to feel and grab onto those feelings. I want to feel satisfied. I want to feel grateful. I want to feel good about my life. Make those solid decisions and then interrupt anything that goes against it. Decide what you will focus on. Am I going to focus on that? Is that going to bring me more of what I want, or is that going to bring me what I don't want? Is focusing on this going to cause anxiety? Is focusing on this going to make me worry? Ask yourself these questions because this is part of the interrupting process. Decide what thoughts will serve you better. Okay, so thinking about those towels not being able to be returned did not make me feel good. What do I want to think about? I want to think about buying sweet little shoes for my grandbaby and how my daughter's going to return those and it's all going to work out for me. That's what I did. Manage your frequency by mastering your emotions. So you have to first master the thought field in order to master the emotions. But mastering the emotions comes on the heels of that journaling, releasing, and letting these things go. When you master your thought field, you won't evoke the same emotions. But that's to say you're not being triggered, because triggers aren't necessarily totally connected to thoughts. Sometimes triggers are just connected to wounds that need some healing. Ask yourself often and throughout the day, is this the frequency I want to be in? Do I want more of this? That's one of my favorite questions. If it's not, you got to reach higher. You got to reach higher. You got to go, well, if that thought doesn't make me feel good, which one does? Oh, my husband. I love my husband. Or, oh, my house. I love my house. Or, I love my cat. I mean, it can be that simple. Or, I'm so excited that I get to go on this trip. Or, I'm so excited that this worked out. Or, whatever it is that can just tune you into a higher frequency works. You are in charge. So you've got to get determined about this stuff and no longer let that shitty committee be in charge or talk you out of the things you most want to do. This is becoming more deliberate, and it's not about distracting yourself and pushing down your emotional field. This is about making a decision and doing the work when you can. If you push down your emotions and you never deal with your feelings, you're going to be vibrating with it underneath, and that's where the triggers come from. So this is not about distraction. This is about interrupting frequency patterns when you don't have time to do the work, so that you don't create a bunch of havoc in your day that you have no control over because you don't have the time to go in and work on it. So dealing with them right away, releasing them, and getting healed from them is how you stop the triggers. It's how you no longer live in a triggered state, because you've gone in, you've dealt with them, you've seen where the foundations are, you've decided that it no longer works for you. You don't want to feel that way anymore, and you move forward. So a while ago, long time ago, and for a long time I was Catholic, and you guys know that. So guilt, guilt. I mean, guilt is like one of those things. I feel like it's a generational thing. I mean, this is how people were manipulated by guilt, right? This is how our moms manipulated us, and how their moms manipulated them, and how the government manipulates us, and how religion manipulates us is through guilt. So I decided long time ago that I was going to give up guilt. I'm like, I don't do guilt. That's like my saying, I don't do guilt. So if a thought pops up that might evoke some guilt within me, evokes that emotion, I automatically now have a saying, I don't do guilt. No, I don't do guilt. I also don't do obligations. I don't do obligations. And I don't expect other people to do obligations either. I'm very much like, do what's right for you. So once you make decisions around how you want to feel, you can make these decisions like, I don't live from resentments. So when you do that and you say, no, no longer, nope, don't do resentment, then you don't tune into that frequency, and you don't evoke the emotions around that frequency that might be, rooted in the past or in some sort of social programming. So think about those feelings. Think about those feelings that are not serving you. They're not creating what you want to create. They are not adding value to your life whatsoever. Guilt is a huge one. Unworthy is a huge one. I see this a lot, having the inability to receive. People have a hard time receiving. They have a really easy time of giving, but they can't receive because I think it's a chakra blockage, but it's really about the worthiness factor. And like, yes, I deserve this. It's almost like a vulnerability thing receiving. I don't know, putting yourself out there saying, I deserve to receive. I don't know. I've worked really hard on this and I am a really great receiver. But if you can't receive, like if you have trouble receiving gifts, if you have trouble letting people pay for you, if you have trouble, I don't know, with any sort of receivership, you're in balance. And that balance is going to funk up the way you create. Because if you can't receive, then you can't allow for the universal law to give you things, because your receivership is blocked. So I'd work on that. I'd journal on that. Why do I have trouble receiving? What does receiving mean to me? Why is it something I struggle with? Ask yourself those questions and ask where the foundation came from. I am no longer tuning into or identifying with depression, anxiety, complaining, misery. When you give these things up, no one needs to reflect them to you any longer. Life no longer needs to bring you evidence of them. So when you feel guilty, people will give you more reasons to feel guilty. And that's why giving up guilt is so necessary. Any negative emotion or positive emotion, people will reflect to you. So if you're worried and anxious about something, somebody's going to bring that up. They're going to tell you why you should be worried and anxious, or they're going to give you more reasons to feel that fear. So that's why it's important to say, I am no longer identifying with those things. It is not my depression. It is not my anxiety. It is not my misery. No, none of that stuff needs to be owned by you. Those are emotions in your emotional field that are there as guidance. Guidance to your healing, guidance to what feels off to you, guidance to choose what you really desire, right? That contrast that causes you to really desire something more strongly. So your emotional field is valid, the whole entire thing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all for good. It's just learning how to manage it. It's learning how to take your control back from it. And it's learning how to get back in the driver's seat of your own damn life. Yes, we want to do that. We want to get in the driver's seat. We don't want to be controlled by these emotions. We don't want to be addicted to these emotions and the adrenaline that they drive in our bodies, because guess what that is connected to? Sickness, disease, illness, cancer, all that stuff is connected to that stress and that massive download of adrenaline when we get angry or upset. So that's why it's really, really super duper important that you have a meditation practice. If you need help, I have M21 Revolution is on Facebook. We are like 7 days into a new challenge. Come in there, just get in there. It's a free group, donation-based challenge. Just come in and see what it's all about. It's so good. Guided meditations. I'm hopping on there doing videos about universal law and quieting your mind. There's tons of videos on guided meditations and emotional releases and just really good stuff that'll help you on your journey. So heal your inner world so your outer world can reflect peace and joy to you. That's the whole thing. Like, that's the intention of life. Somebody asked me this recently and they said, like, what's the point? Like, what do you think the point is here? And I said, I think the point is to experience the most amount of joy we possibly can and heal from whatever it is that has created wounds or misery within us, and to share that with other people, to shine our light, to inspire, to love, to create more fun. That's the trajectory that I'm on. And I want to share it with everybody I meet. When we do our fun Fridays, it's like a ball. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, and it just gets bigger and more people get involved. More fun is had. And that's how it is when you have momentum and your only interest, intention, and focus is, how much fun can I have today? Hey, what if you set that intention every day? How much fun can I have today? How much fun can I have with this? How much fun can I have folding laundry? Like, what fun thoughts can I have when I'm folding laundry? Or what fun can I have on my drive to work? Can I listen to something funny? Can I tune into a frequency that feels like fun or lightheartedness? It's all about that field and what you decide to allow into your field. If you're allowing a lot of news in, if you're allowing a lot of negative social media in, if you're allowing in a lot of negative people and negative opinions, that's what you're doing. You're allowing your field to be the object of everybody else's stuff. If you really want to be a deliberate creator, you've got to take power back over your field. You got to take power back over your emotions and your thoughts, and you got to start driving the car, because otherwise, where's it going to get you? Nowhere good. I'm telling you, it'll drive you right into that bad neighborhood. If you give your emotions the driver's seat, they're going to drive you right into that bad neighborhood. And the reason for that, remember, your mind's mechanism is to stay safe and the same, and it likes to work on problems to do that. So it will always give you reasons to feel dissatisfied. I recognized a while ago that all of a sudden I would just be like dissatisfied. You know where you get that? Have you ever seen people walking around like this? If you're not on my YouTube channel, you need to go to my YouTube channel so you can see my face. And I would really like it if you could subscribe. Let's get this YouTube channel going here. I had 3,200 downloads last year on YouTube alone. I was pretty amazed by that, and 4,500 on Buzzsprout. So we are growing, and I've got a lot of stuff planned. I'm actually working with somebody to grow this even further. But please like, share, subscribe. I have a little subscriber thing, and I'll put the link below for $20 a month. If you're receiving value, it's important to exchange. If you're receiving value, that's how abundance works. That's how flow works. You're not just giving the money to me, you're showing the value for yourself in your own self-development. So I realized that my mind would like often go to places of dissatisfaction. And I was like, I'm taking the power back from that. Like, I'm not tuning into dissatisfaction. So anytime I catch myself, I do a little up level where I'm like, what do I want to think about? What brings me joy? What do I love? Sometimes I'll just walk outside, today I just went and I sat in the sun and I just took a breather in the sun. And if you don't have nice weather, then you got to find a way to do it. Put on an Afghan, grab a cat, put them on your lap, just find a moment of peace where you decide how you're going to feel and what you're going to conduct throughout your day. Because if you take your power back on all these fronts, you're going to have a field that is really beautiful, and you're going to have a field that gives you more reasons to feel peace, love, and joy. And that's what it's all about. All right. That's how you live life golden. All right. I love you guys. I am super blessed to be here. And thank you, thank you, thank you to all of my listeners. Good Lord. I'm just so excited this is growing and this message is getting out, because literally I feel like my hair is on fire half the time, and I just want to tell everybody about it, and knowing that there are people who are actually receiving it, listening to it, and benefiting from it is, it's part of that soul fulfillment, and it feels great. All right. Love y'all. Peace.